see it.
That it's strange, so strange.
Apocalypse, end of the world, Armageddon. It's all got a face and a name.
Time and place, I'm waiting for heaven. Back in 1967.
Hello, listeners past, present, and future. This is Haddonfield Radio. We are broadcasting live from Wing M, Room L of the Smiths Grove Sanitarium in Warren County, Illinois. Here we offer a fan commentary exploration, a fananalysis, if you will, of the movies that make up the Halloween franchise, featuring everyone's favorite, methodically machine-like, masked multiversal madman, Michael Myers. We are your hosts. I'm Christian White.
And I'm Joe Francazio.
The year is 1988, and 5 long years have passed since the critically and commercially divisive film Halloween 3: Season of the Witch left most fans at the time disappointed and hoping for the eventual cinematic return of legacy characters Michael Myers, Laurie Strode, and Dr. Loomis. However, behind the scenes, the single most important shift in power in the young franchise's history had also occurred, as a frustrated and creatively exhausted John Carpenter and Deborah Hill decided to sell off their stake in the franchise to the original film's Syrian-American financier, Mustafa Akkad, leaving him now the sole owner and executive producer of what had already become one of horror's most iconic film series. Desiring not to butt heads again with another auteurist director like John Carpenter, Akkad set out to hire a young, upstart filmmaker who he could guide, if not control, in order to see his vision for the franchise executed in a way that would give the fans more of what he felt they wanted from the series. Enter lifelong friends and collaborators, writer Alan McElroy and director Dwight Little, who pitched a back-to-basics approach and who envisioned a more visceral film which would compete with the glut of 80s slashers films dominating the horror landscape of the time. They also wanted to lean into the burgeoning mythology of Michael Myers, allowing him ample room to do what he does best on screen, stalking, terrorizing, and brutally killing his entire familial bloodline. Akkad offered Jamie Lee Curtis a very healthy payday to return, yet she decided to side with friends and creative allies Carpenter and Hill, and opted out in order to move herself away from the Scream Queen mold. Yet Donald Pleasance, having approved of the new film's script and receiving the single biggest payday of his storied career, agreed to reprise his now famous role of Dr. Sam Loomis. Along with the addition of a cadre of young, up-and-coming talent rounding out the cast, and a mix of veterans and new blood making up the crew, the film commenced production, aiming for a Halloween 1988 theatrical release. Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, would bring the narrative back to the original Halloween timeline of parts 1 and 2, while also kicking off what would become a new, unofficial trilogy of movies that would come to be known as the Cult of Thorn trilogy. Joe, what are your thoughts on this one?
I have a lot of thoughts on this one. I like it. It's good for the later movies, I feel like. Of course, nothing touches the original in my eyes, so it's hard. I compare everything to that. But I remember this from my youth. I remember hitting that HBO stage where you got to see a movie over and over and over again, and I watched it a lot. I believe through that way. I don't think I saw this in the theater. We were a little too young, but there's definitely. This is where we start to lose, I feel like, that independent feel.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're getting a little more of that glossy, I don't want to say studio because it wasn't a studio film yet, but they're trying to make it look more like a studio film for sure.
I think this is where the franchise really kind of broadens out to a wider audience, and they were certainly casting a much wider net, trying to bring in new fans and without really trying to alienate the existing fans. And I think in some respects they definitely nail that, and in some respects they don't. This is where I also think the franchise sort of branches off, where you have people who kind of stayed with the train and some people who just jumped off at this point.
Yeah. It's sort of the it's like an offshoot, like you said. Yeah,
right.
It doesn't, to me, it doesn't feel anything like the originals, but it was needed. You need these films to get to where Halloween as a franchise is now. It's part of the history, for good or for bad, and
Absolutely.
It's there. And
it is, you got to say, from a filmmaking perspective, it must have been extremely tricky to find a way to bring back Michael Myers and Dr. Loomis, considering how Halloween 2 ended.
Yes. Well, you have Dr. Loomis, thank God. That's sort of the saving.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Bringing him back, you got Michael, but he's being used differently. We don't have Laurie. And so having Loomis there as that anchor to the original still, I think, was key.
I think that's the perfect word. He truly is the anchor of this film. He truly holds this film together. And without him, I'm not sure that the franchise would have continued on with as much strength as it has. Before we start the movie, there's a couple quick things I always like to say. Joe and I are not trying to reinvent the wheel here. We're aware that there have been a lot of other great, creative, talented YouTubers, podcasters, etc., who have analyzed these films, and we've been very inspired by that, bringing our perspective to the mix. So every episode, in the top of the comments section, I like to bring a spotlight on some of those YouTubers, etc., that I was really interested in and inspired by. So you can check that out every single episode right in the comments section. And if you would do us the favor of hitting that subscribe button, if you're listening, we appreciate you. We sincerely appreciate you doing that. So if you could hit that subscribe button just so we know you're out there and we can keep you posted when new episodes are going to air. And with that said,
yeah, really quick, I think it's sort of a thing, being a fan of this franchise, is to be very vocal.
Oh, this is one of the most vocal franchises.
So that's why, that's why we're doing this too. It's just like we have such excitement for these movies too, and it seems like it's sort of a fun thing to do as a fan of these, is to sort of kind of examine and talk about them, and
100%.
Between the story and the filmmaking, there's a lot to talk about. But anyway,
totally agree with that.
Here we go. You ready? We're going to start the movie right now.
Halloween 4: The Return of Michael Myers. Now,
So,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
Well, so, right away in the beginning here, we have this montage of, rural American Halloween images, which they supposedly went and did, like a lot of research into the background of Halloween to try and figure out what would evoke, you know what I mean? And
I
it
think
came
it's
down
very
to these
successful.
early agricultural imagery, even though it's probably works within the concept that this is in Indiana, right?
Yep.
But this does not look anything like where
No.
they are in the rest of the film. But anyway,
And it's also obviously a complete departure from the traditional Halloween opening credits. The style that has come before with the pumpkins, etc.,
Sure.
which of course you're getting here. But showcasing the kind of Americana and the Halloween ritual angle, I think is like very evocative. And I think really that shot in particular, I think really sets the tone.
So, this is directed by Dwight Little, and if you think about it, really, this is the first guy to attack the Michael Myers thing without it having to look and feel like a John Carpenter movie. You know
That's
what I mean?
absolutely right. Yep, I totally agree.
So, obviously 3 was 3, and then 2 was supposed to be a direct sequel to 1 the same night, and they're trying to make it all the same. Carpenter was more involved. Now this is, totally on his own, and he definitely brought his own thoughts and style, to this movie. For
Now,
sure.
why is Michael here? Why is he at the Ridgemont Sanitarium at this point, I wonder? Do you have any thoughts on that, or do you have any understanding of why he's here? Why this particular place? Why this particular area?
I think it's just a story device. they have to move him. It's
Right,
not,
right,
That's
right.
the only time someone who's incarcerated like this is vulnerable to get
it
out.
seems like in
is,
terms,
is
yeah,
when they
yes.
move him. That's
in terms
the only,
of the plot
you know,
contrivance, it's the only way to get him out of the world is this idea of moving the character from one place to another,
Right.
which always obviously goes haywire.
And of course, so they're just reversing it. We're not leaving Smith's Grove; they're taking him back to Smith's
Right,
Grove
you got it.
instead. You
You
know,
got it.
so you know, story device.
I like
even
the-
talk about story device. This whole character, the guard, this whole scene is a story device to get you caught up.
It's
on
like an
the-
exposition
how
dump.
Michael was
Yeah.
able to survive and
Absolutely.
why we have a part 4 and how it's all feasible. Little over the top, this guy, you know, but it works. You
Well,
know?
I think, this movie starts this kind of a little bit of a campy tone starts to seep into
Sure.
these movies.
Well, it has to now start keeping up with the Nightmare on Elm Street movies a little more.
Absolutely.
This same year, Nightmare on Elm Street 4 came out.
Yep.
You know, so by that point, Freddy
Oh
is,
my
is
God,
half
Freddy
a
was like
comedian,
Freddy
you know?
was like comic relief by that
Right,
point.
right. So thank God these guys aren't going quite that, comedic, but there's definitely a little more of that horror movie campness.
In terms of exposition dumps, this one is fairly elegant, and I think it does get the audience right up to speed. And anybody that is new to the franchise, I think it gets them up to speed in kind of a quick and
Yeah, this is the
Unique way.
Let's write this scene for the people who may not have seen any other Halloween
Right,
movies
right.
and have to start fresh from here. Now, I love this hospital room with steam coming out of the old pipes.
It looks like a dirty old basement.
I mean, I know, I get it. It's a federal prison, but it's also he's in the hospital part.
This is one of my favorite of all of Michael Myers' looks, and eventually when you see him in the coming up later on at
the
in the diner, you see him in his full glory. And I always kind of wish, maybe they have and I'm wrong and somebody can correct me, but I wish somebody like Trick or Treat Studios would do that figure, like the image of him in the Johnny with the
bandages.
gauze mask, because
Yeah.
the bandages sort of is evocative to me of when Jason Voorhees was the one-eyed baghead
Right,
in
right.
Friday the 13th Part 2.
For half a second, I remember when I watched this recently, kind of going, "Why wouldn't he rip the bandages off?" And then I'm like, "Well, he needs a mask."
Yeah,
Like,
that's right. It's
he
a
does
mask.
not like
It is
to. He does
absolutely a
not like
mask.
to expose his face at all.
Yep, you're absolutely right. Well, his face is when he's Michael Myers, and anytime he's masked, he's the shape. And I think it is like an alter persona, and I think he definitely leans into that alter persona. Mm-hmm. This guy you've seen in a number of movies.
He
of
was
the
in
time,
some of the
TV.
classic, earlier than this movie, the classic monster movies
Yeah.
and things.
Right. Move him.
I mean, like you were saying earlier, here we
The
go.
theme. It was a choice to wait. It's
a good idea.
A little bit. Alan Howarth is back to do the music. He talks about how he went to Carpenter and said, "Hey, they asked me to do this. You okay with it?" And he was like, "Yeah, great, whatever. Do it. I'd rather it be you than somebody else."
And it's done on a piano, at least at this point.
But when you listen, he brings in some of his own signature stuff, which is that more ethereal music.
Yeah,
but
right.
Then he relies heavily on the themes that Carpenter already wrote from the original movies at times to. It's the one thing at times that really sucks me in as this being a Halloween movie when you hear the Carpenter themes,
Oh, 100%.
and they're being done well.
Even just then, even though I've seen this movie 30 times, I'm going to tell you, right when that music cue kicks in, you get that little jolt. I mean, look at the look of Michael Myers with that cool gauze.
It's also weird to me. I'll see Michael Myers for so long in this state. I mean, obviously he's conscious now, but so is the idea that he's always been conscious? He's literally just been fooling them, waiting.
Well, I mean, look at Michael Myers'
It's not-
MO in general. I mean, he's very much,
yeah.
he's almost all about stillness.
Now, did you know that this whole scene with the head bashing was added? This was shot after the fact.
The thumb through, he just put his thumb through
Yeah,
bone.
when they realized they needed a little more gore.
Yeah, I think you're right. They should.
And I think they needed to flesh out. They realized they had to flesh out the ambulance scene a little bit.
Well, if you notice, Dwight Little tends to direct in a way that he always seems to show you the aftermath of Michael's rampages. If you watch, you'll notice when he depicts Michael's violence, it's always as an aftermath.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure Mustafa Akkad, I can almost guarantee you, just said to him, we want to have something punched up there. We needed the violence punched up.
Actually, I think it wasn't Mustafa. But it was other producers.
Oh,
right,
okay.
because Mustafa was known for the no blood.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
And I do love that they kind of kept to that Carpenter idea a lot in this movie where, yes, there are a few more gory stuff,
Right.
but a lot of it's implied at times. You don't always have to see the killing. But funny thing is later, when the guy gets his throat ripped off in the truck, which was the other scene that they added for gore, Mustafa was heard saying, more blood, more blood. It was like the one, and they all remember it because usually he was always saying no blood, no blood, and all of a sudden, in that one, he was just yelling and really into it, more blood.
Here we are. Just of course, you can't go any further talking about this movie without talking about the incredible Danielle Harris, which I think is literally one of the greatest child performances ever in this movie, regardless of genre, regardless of horror being the redheaded stepchild genre. Her performance here as a kid actor is so good.
Yeah.
And she does one of the best screams in the entire franchise, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, she nails it as a kid. There's one scene I'll bring up later that makes me kind of go a little ooh, for the acting, but it's a kid.
Well, she's like 8 or 9.
Exactly,
Gotta
this
be
is her
just a little
first
kid,
first big role, and I think I remember her talking about this scene. I believe it was this scene where Dwight Little, like most of the times they went out of their way to make sure as a kid that she felt safe.
Right.
And that she understood that the Michael Myers actor was an actor and blah, blah, blah. But to get her a little worked up at times to be able to do some of these scenes, he like put her in the closet with the door closed for a while before the shot.
Do it.
Yeah. I hear that now and I'm like, ooh, I don't know, that would not fly.
That wouldn't fly in 2022.
With these laws. But anyway,
2023, I should say.
And here's the first shot right there, right?
The interesting thing about Jamie Lloyd as a character is she is of course, the first of Laurie Strode's 3 multiversal children.
Right.
Which is also including 1998's John Tate, played by Josh Hartnett, and of course 2018's Karen Strode Nelson, played by Judy Greer.
Now, of course, they must have named her Jamie.
Of course.
Because of Jamie Lee
Yeah,
Curtis,
absolutely.
right?
Well, her first original character's name was, I think, Brittany, and they were going to call her Britty. And eventually they just changed it, obviously, to accommodate a little tribute to Jamie Lee Curtis, which is definitely deserved. Even though Jamie Lee Curtis didn't return to this as an actress, the presence of Laurie Strode looms over this entire movie.
Oh, yeah. They had to tie it in. Supposedly her and her husband were killed in a car accident in this storyline, like 11 months or so before this.
Which, theoretically, you can connect timeline-wise in the multiverse of Michael Myers. You could make a connection to H2O later on, where Laurie Strode is in hiding under another name, that she may have faked her death here in order to go into hiding. So there are ways of sort of stitching this timeline together with that one, if you wanted to.
This becomes the first offshoot from part 2. You have to kind of skip part 3, talking about Michael Myers stuff.
Right.
So we kind of go from part 2 to this. And then later it'll go from part 2 to H2O, and then part 2.
It's a pretty iconic shot right there.
It is.
That's it.
Yes, isn't all the trailers and.
Now, this is not my favorite mask, I'm going to say right now.
I don't know when we want to. I guess we can get into it.
Yeah, get into it.
So this Michael Myers is just not doing it for me at all.
Okay.
Physically,
played by George Wilbur.
Most of the time, yes.
Right.
Which we can get into too. But between this guy's body size, the way he holds himself, and the mask, it's not great. Now, his shoulders bug me. Is that weird? He's got like football pad shoulders,
Well, they were probably trying to give him a much more imposing look, especially from the perspective of a child.
Okay, so when they started the movie, originally Tom Morga was playing Michael Myers, stunt guy. And he actually went on to do a bunch of Friday the 13th stuff. But he started playing it, and there's a bunch of stories. For whatever reason, he wasn't after shooting a few scenes. They decided to switch him out for George Wilbur, who did a majority of the movie.
Right.
But you can see Tom Morga did all the bandaged Michael stuff in the diner and the garage.
That's interesting.
So
it's some of my favorite stuff.
Well, right. If you look at that, I don't have a problem with that body shape. The shoulders are down.
Yep.
He looks less beefy.
Because there is a very specific posture to Michael Myers.
Yeah, I don't like George Wilbur's approach, and I'm sure it's not a criticism of him. I mean, he does what the director and the writers have told him to do.
Right.
But it just, I don't understand it. Considering that Michael Myers is what they were trying to get back to, they know that 3 didn't work, and it was because people wanted Michael Myers. We got to get Michael Myers back. This is called The Return of Michael Myers. Heck, the poster for the movie even shows like the original looking mask, like the actual the Shatner mask.
It's one of the best posters
right?
for any of
but
the
it's
movies.
Like not the mask
but
that's in the
totally
movie,
misleading
right?
in that way. Very misleading.
So,
and you wonder why not just use the damn mask? Just remold the original mask.
I don't know if you've heard all the different stories for this movie about the mask.
I'm sure there are numerous.
So when there was the makeup guy who did it, he was he quit the business literally at the end of this movie because it just broke him. When they supposedly this is a Shatner mask. This is that, right? Yep. They're saying it's still the original type of sculpt. Yep. But of course they did some things. So when they got the originals in, they were all blonde-haired and pink-skinned.
Right.
And so that's why they had to hand paint them, and which is why you see that sort of, it's a weird white, it's not grabbing the details, it's a little more textured, it's because they just had to paint them. And later on in the school, I'll point out, there's a scene where you still see one of those masks slipped in, and it's a blonde-haired Michael Myers.
Because they couldn't find the original mask. Wasn't that what it was?
No, the director said it was just a screw-up.
Oh, yeah.
Late at night, wrong person grabbed the wrong mask. They should have caught it. They should have reshot it. They didn't. There's no big, thing behind it except...
And here we go introducing one of the great legends of not just this franchise, but really of horror in general, really of movies in general.
Thank God he came back.
The great Donald Pleasance.
Now, can I bring up, talking about makeup, if you look at his burn, it switches throughout the movie.
That's true.
This is called the button burn because it's got the big
little lump in the middle there.
and they realized they had to change it. So later they have one, and it's called the fried egg. Maybe this was the fried egg. I forget, but they had a few. There's a couple different scars there,
I wanted to start bringing something up here that I've been noticing throughout this franchise since the beginning, but in this film, it really comes into fruition, and that is that there is this really strange kind of overlay of Jungian archetypes that start going through all these movies almost subconsciously, and maybe there was some intention behind it, maybe not. And there were 4 different forms that Carl Jung, the psychiatrist, he created this idea of these 4 archetypes: the persona, the self, the shadow, and the anima and animus. And if you start looking at these characters and how they interact with each other, you start seeing a lot of different interesting little moments that kind of lend themselves to that. Like, for instance, Jamie Lloyd is having these strange visions of Michael Myers, right?
Yeah.
Well, Michael Myers appears to her in what would be called the shadow. And Jung suggested that the shadow, which is sort of like Michael Myers' aspect, can appear in dreams or visions, just like what Jamie's having, and may take a variety of forms. It might appear as a snake, a monster, a demon, a dragon, or some other kind of wild or exotic figure, which certainly fits Michael Myers. And that archetype is often described as the darker side of the psyche. And for Laurie Strode, for Loomis, for Jamie Lloyd, that's definitely the case. Also, Dr. Loomis sort of finds himself up against his shadow persona a couple different times in this movie, as we'll see as we continue on.
Well, yeah, we're getting into Loomis as a person a little but more in this movie.
Right, absolutely.
There's a few scenes that will bring that out. But what I love hearing is when I listen to the commentaries or different interviews is how much everybody loved Donald Pleasance and working with him, and how
he's like a
he
legend.
was a trooper. How he just went in this water. He just did it. It was cold and blah blah blah. And
that is a lot of blood.
Like he could do. Yeah. Again, it's an implied. Carnage without.
You see the aftermath of it, and it lets your imagination do the heavy lifting. And in all cases, that's usually the best thing to do for an audience, is let them have some part in the making of the movie that way.
Right.
The other day I was thinking, just as a side note, it occurred to me that there are 3 movies around the same time that are slasher films. Now, of course, Halloween, but there are 2 other ones that aren't normally considered slasher films, but just as a side note, it occurred to me that they sort of are. And one of them is The Terminator, which is very much sort of in that same mold, and the other one is Jaws. If you really look at Jaws and look at it with the perspective of looking at like a slasher film, it starts to become like the shark is essentially
a killer that
exactly
you see more and more and more.
And the way that it's directed and shot is very similar to Halloween.
Yeah.
In Terminator, it's exactly like Halloween. The Terminator, basically in the first Terminator, is Michael Myers in many ways.
So I found it interesting that the same year, this movie went up against the Carpenter movie, They Live.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that weird?
That's the same year. You're absolutely right.
No, maybe they were out at different months.
But still.
But, it must have been a little weird, right, to think about. And back to one of the original points that now Mustafa has taken control of the whole series. And, so this is the original. This is the
I just
Tom
wish
Morgan
there was
stuff.
an action figure of that look with the blood on the gauze and everything. It's so cool. And again, if that exists, you guys can let us know. Maybe it exists. I would love to know because I'd love to find it.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, just going into these scenes here, this is where, again, going with this Jungian archetype thing that I've been thinking about. Here's where Loomis sort of meets his shadow self coming up. And he sees Michael. He has that really interesting conversation with him where it's very dreamlike. It's shot dreamlike. I mean, Michael and Loomis are like 2 sides of a coin.
Oh, yeah. They don't... They need each other to sort of exist. I mean, Michael could have technically just gone and killed him here,
Oh, absolutely.
But he knows...
It's like Batman and the Joker.
Well, Michael has... he likes to toy with people. He's not just a killer. It's the why he sets up those elaborate scenes.
He's so full of motivation.
He, as much as he is shapeless and blank in a lot of ways, he has this little style. He's got this little thing. He messes with people. He has sort of like
his own methodology that he really adheres to.
But it seems to be just based on on what he wants to do in the moment. It's all different.
Well, a lot of it is
sometimes
also
elaborate.
It's like a psychological torture. And it leads me to this one other little thing. Again, speaking of... Oh, look at this. Again, speaking of Jungian ideals. When you think about Michael Myers and you think about what his main weapon is, it's not necessarily the knife. It's not a hammer. It's not a sickle. It's not a... what else has he used? What do you call what the surgeon uses?
Shotgun coming up in this one,
shotgun,
right?
A scalpel, or a hypodermic needle. Michael Myers' main weapon is trauma.
Right.
That's what Michael wields as a weapon. He wields trauma.
Yeah.
And
he puts all these people through hell. That's why he's about to say, please don't go there. Don't put these people through.
That's exactly right. And he wants to put himself up and says, as a sacrificial lamb. Take me instead. Yeah. But that would No, Michael
quench
doesn't.
His thirst.
To stab and kill Loomis wouldn't be what Michael wants. He's destroying Loomis.
We got to talk about this here.
I mean, look at this.
There's the Hitchcockian shot.
I love it. Great shot.
Where your subject matter stays the same size as everything around.
Also, look at the clowns on the wall. See on the bottom level, there's those clowns that are very evocative of Michael Myers.
And Donald Pleasance also, he dropped that cane. That wasn't in the script. That was just part of his thing, and the director loved it so much he had him do it over and over and over again. But
this is one of the best scenes in the movie.
Yeah, Michael's standing there. I love it. I love this original Tom Morga. If you ever listen to this, I think you're the better Michael Myers for sure. I wish you had stayed on the whole movie. But he's also quick, huh?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean,
Like, does that
Dr.
mean
Loomis is sort of.
saw him, like... It's weird, because he must have saw him dash out of the way. Yeah, he looks over the counter like, oh, what happened?
Well, I think it gives you this sense, just going back to with Jamie Lloyd, it gives you this sense almost as like, is this a vision? Is this his mind? Is this happening? And I think by letting Jamie Lloyd establish this idea of having these visions, it makes you second guess everything Loomis is seeing.
If you look at the details going forward, though, this is really happening.
Oh, no, by now you know
Yeah,
it's happening.
yeah.
But the way that Michael sort of appears and disappears, or he appears in reflections a lot in this movie.
I love
it
that
gives
Michael
you that
once
sense.
again can drive.
Well, I mean, he's a pretty good driver. He's a
Well, I mean, this is like a
definitely-
big tow truck. You
Yep.
don't just turn the key and go. There's a clutch and stuff to deal with.
There's also this interesting connection going forward in these movies between Michael Myers and fire. This strange connection between in fire, which is this cleansing and destructive force, which in some ways is similar to Michael as well.
Mm-hmm. And this is reminiscent from the original movie. The kids teasing Tommy.
Right. Yep. You got it.
So it's
And here we have Halloween costumes and masks, which is always obviously iconic to this.
Yeah.
And that was from remember the old show Mask, the old
yeah. Oh, I
cartoon
remember.
series? I thought that was so cool. That brought back a lot of memories. I
Well,
used to love those toys.
yeah. This was our. I mean, we were a little older than
Yeah.
these kids, but this is like what we remember. This was our childhood. This
Joe
is
and
what it
I,
looked
we were
like.
both born in 1975, so yeah, this is right there.
Very dramatic stuff here.
Oh, well, of course. Almost everything from Jamie Lloyd's perspective has this dreaminess and strangeness to
I
it.
do miss the Dean Cundy look, although I get.
That's all right,
I
yeah.
understand they're going to
Yep.
move on and everything, but it just doesn't have a. Oh, this is the scene. This cracks me up. Her acting here. It's the one time it's like, oh, it's a little kid.
Yeah, well, it's a kid,
But
yeah.
anyway,
She is just she's hitting home runs for most of this movie.
she
though.
is. But the look of this movie doesn't have a. I don't know. It's just nothing special. It's a very
This
done
sort
well.
of like a flat kind of
It's just-
journeyman style to
The
it.
guy's got his thing. When it's nighttime, you notice everything's blue. Like everything is blue, but it's just shot well and safe.
That's right.
And we've lost the Panaglide.
Oh,
So-
see, that's something I wouldn't have noticed.
When we get to the end, and she's got the mask on, and they start emulating the first movie
Right.
as a kid.
Yep.
They go to the handheld Panaglide, and all of a sudden, it feels like the Carpenter movie
yeah,
again. You know what I mean?
That is such like a cinematic hallmark of those first two movies for sure. Even the third one.
Now I think
Discount Mart or the Dairy Queen?
this girl is supposed to be the little girl grown up from the first movie that she's babysitting. I can't believe I'm blanking on her
Oh,
name.
wow, that's really
Lindsay.
cool. Oh my God, that's
Lindsay
cool.
Wallace.
And then she shows up again in Halloween Kills.
Right.
Yeah, played by the original actress.
It's sort of like, well, they gave her the name. It's
Yeah.
supposed to, but without them, I don't think they said they gave it a lot of like really back story or thought. Besides, it'd be fun to name her that, and it could be that girl. But
A quick little note, because I'm going to keep pushing this Jungian archetype thing. And here we are in this store with all these masks. One of the four archetypes, persona, the interesting thing I saw that was kind of a weird synchronous thing, is the original Latin word that it's derived from actually means mask, which I thought was kind of neat.
yeah, we all wear masks.
I
right?
mean, Laurie and Jamie Lloyd also both fit as Michael's anima, his feminine side, that he's looking to kind of unify himself through. He's attracted to these female members of his family, almost like he's compelled either to, scorch the earth of them or to kind of combine himself with
Right.
them. It's very interesting. The whole mythology of these movies is actually very psychologically complex.
And there's the subtle, there's the tow truck in the
Oh,
foreground
yeah, that's
to let
in-
you know that he's there.
And it's just like they did in the first movie.
Right,
There's a
where
lot
you,
of shots
you would notice
like that.
the station
Yep.
wagon, and yeah.
And there's the Connell Cochran mask. See the Connell Cochran mask from Halloween 3?
I did not.
Well, the Dan O'Herlihy, see it? It's right
Oh,
there
is
on
that
the...
supposed to be him?
There's Connell Cochran right there. Well, that's what a lot of people think. It shows up all over online in a lot of other analysis
Gotcha.
pieces. Now, it's not 100% confirmed, but I think it does look exactly like him.
It could be.
And there's the Michael mask over her
So that's
shoulder.
weird, right? I mean, the idea, I guess, in this world is that Michael, it's 10 years, there's this story
And
and
look at the snakes
legend.
coming out of the skull, which is
Yeah.
also evocative of Halloween 3.
But why do you think they have a Michael mask? Is it the idea that they're literally making Michael Myers mask based on the killer from?
No, I don't think so.
Or they're just some.
I think that's a
happens
very
to
good
be,
question.
You know,
It's a good question.
It's a weird thing.
See, there's
especially in
the
the
Connell Cochran
town
mask again.
that knows about Michael. You would think,
And of course, she's drawn to the clown costume, of course.
of course, it's in the family
There's
blood.
something in her psychic DNA that is continuously links her, obviously, with Michael.
That's the half the other half of the story, right?
Yep.
We're watching her have these visions right away, seeing him. You know,
I mean, Jamie Lloyd is a character we were talking about before we started recording. Jamie Lloyd is a character that just has so much inherent potential going forward in the franchise. I mean, they could have done so much with this character. You could have drawn this character through numerous movies in a much more effective way. I mean, because she's set up so brilliantly in this as sort of an acolyte. You could either make her an acolyte of Michael, you could make her the antithesis of Michael. You could do so much with her.
or if nothing else, you know, as a female, she can be both the killer or the reason why the bloodline continues. You know what I mean? She could have a child
Absolutely.
that you know,
Yep.
that continues it, and
I mean, the idea. Oh, that is so cool. And again, we're here where.
so you think, you know, he's really there. This is him in the store getting the mask.
The reason why
to run into her.
The only reason why I would make a devil's advocate argument against that is because, again, he's framed in the reflection of a mirror.
But watch in a second here.
When the hand, is it the hand?
Yeah, why would a vision continue?
No, I'm like I said,
think, and the tow truck's outside. So
I'm
I
saying
think
devil's
he's-
advocate.
Yeah, I do think he's supposed to be there, but they're keeping it
Again,
like that.
but look,
It's in the mirror. I get it.
there's got to be a reason why directorially they
Sure.
chose to.
They're probably trying to keep you wondering a little bit,
and
right?
just the way he disappears when Loomis sees him, you're being kept off balance.
Now-
So I think, yes, I do believe you're right. I do believe he's there. But I think there is a heightened psychic
can go
awareness going on
both
that's
ways.
sort of projecting something more than what's actually happening.
This is, you know, one of the first times we start to see Loomis as a real human, you know, and you feel bad for him, these kids messing with him, you know. This is him outside of this, you know, when he's directly
Well,
going after Michael, and it's just this...
It's also because there's a fork in the road for Loomis right now, starting at this point.
Right.
There's a major fork in the road. What Loomis is about to see, and again, Jungian archetypes, is another version of his shadow self.
Oh, yeah, this is...
He's about to see
Exactly.
another version of what he can become if he continues down the rabbit hole in a way that isn't in reality.
Yep, this is a mirror, you know, it's there's a way to put words to
Right.
how, you know, in a movie, a character's internal
Yep.
struggle and monologue has to be brought out some way sometimes, and this is a way to do it, right?
If-
Somebody else says it.
If Loomis is not actually capable of finishing his mission and stopping Michael Myers, then this is what he's going to become. He's going to become a lunatic chasing windmills into
Right.
the end of the world.
Right. Yeah. But
This is actually actually a brilliant moment in this movie.
yeah.
The sharing of the bottle, the fact that Loomis is so filthy looking, and his clothes are kind of tattered just like the Reverend's.
Yeah.
The fact that they don't really ever make eye contact, it's almost like there's this sort of dream-like quality to this scene.
Yeah. Yeah. He's mainly listening, kind of just like, whoa.
You're a
You know.
pilgrim, all right. He is. He's a pilgrim. He's on a spiritual mission, a psychic mission that goes beyond Michael Myers as a human. It's about Dr. Loomis's obsessive need to protect the innocent from evil.
Right. That solo hero that, for whatever reason, no one else sees the evil that they do.
And even the ones that do, they are always,
it's always too late.
Destroyed.
It's too late by the time others realize it, you know?
And Loomis is also now, he's a doctor. He's a very intelligent man. And he understands now that Michael, like you said earlier, Michael could have killed him numerous times in these movies. Michael needs Loomis, and in what Loomis is going crazy over is realizing that he needs Michael. So how do you bring that to a conclusion?
Yeah.
Without ending up a madman, which I would argue Loomis is by this point.
Oh, he's half, an intelligent doctor and half a completely crazed, obsessed. I shouldn't say crazed. He's not crazy, but he's obsessed.
It's like the degenerative compulsion that he has to pursue evil. And evil has manifested itself in the form of the Shape or of Michael Myers. But without that, now what would Loomis be at this point? He would be that old preacher, just driving the roads endlessly, waiting for the end of the world. I mean, it's very evocative and very disturbing in a way. Mm-hmm. And again, it lends itself to this thing that I've noticed, especially in this movie. There's a lot of psychological underpinnings in this movie. And a lot of people see it as almost like, at this point in the franchise, this movie was looked at almost like junk food. And actually, I think the argument can be made, whether it was intentional or not, that there is a lot going on in the subtext of this film that's actually quite interesting.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. It's well written. The writer, what's his name again?
Alan McElroy.
Alan McElroy. He clearly cared about the characters. He put time and effort into crafting the story. It just and assuming this is where the story had to go, great. He did a great job introducing these new characters and making it go this way. And I don't know which way they should have gone, but it doesn't sit, like it just doesn't sit well with me as a great way for them to continue. Especially now that you see, so many other ways that they've done it. You're like, well, this.
Well, here we are in Michael's perspective,
right?
Which they don't go the direct route that you've seen in the other movies. Right, yeah. Exactly. But you're definitely still the camera angle is still putting you in through his
a POV.
You're with him.
Yeah. And, this is, again, more exposition to explain it all.
Was that the father that she's on? Yeah, that's so interesting because I try to look around online about any sort of like, kind of like ancillary material that talked about the father. Maybe you were talking about the novelizations before.
Right.
And I wonder if in the novelization for this, if there's any information about who Mr. Lloyd was and who he was to Laurie Strode.
So, by the way, I do love Beau Starr as.
Do you know who his brother
sheriff
is in real life?
No.
Remember in Dumb and Dumber?
Yeah.
You know the actor, he's in the car when Jim Carrey goes, "Want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?"
God.
That actor's name is Mike Starr, and that's Beau Starr's brother.
Beau Starr used to be a pro football player before acting. Anyway.
I like Sheriff Meeker.
I do, I like him. But going back to the novels, so the guy who wrote those first two novels under a pen name was originally given the chance to write this script.
His name was Dennis Etchison in real life.
And the original idea was that in Haddonfield, the holiday of Halloween has been banned. And the idea that once you repress something, it makes it happen more and more.
Which, again, is so psychological.
So through the town having this repressed Halloween feelings and actions,
and repressing this trauma that
actually
should be
it's how the spirit of Michael. So Michael Myers comes back, through the manifestation of evil. So he is definitely more supernatural. It's not the human form anymore, and he's this more supernatural version of Michael Myers going on this rampage, killing. Blah,
and
blah, blah.
the funny thing is, the crescendo of that script, as I've heard it, is a sequence where you were going to see this literally 12 or 15 foot tall Michael Myers just going a rampage at like a high school football game. And one of those things, sort of like the Incredible Hulk, anything that would attack him would just make him angrier and bigger. I mean, it's so bizarre.
Yeah.
It's so bonkers. But
I'd
at
be
the same
curious.
time, I would have loved to see that imagery.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know.
But that would have destroyed everything.
It would have.
You even
But
dealing with
thinking about where
multiversal
it
timelines,
goes,
you couldn't
yeah.
come back from that.
I know.
You wouldn't have been able to come back from that. But what I do appreciate about it is, I appreciate somebody trying to work within the elasticity of the franchise and trying to bring new ideas.
Sure.
But that's maybe one step too far. How about that classic Frankenstein costume
Yep,
that,
the
again,
old Ben Cooper mask.
I feel like I remember that literally in the pharmacies when I was a kid.
Definitely. Yep. Yeah, this Michael just doesn't have the same...
Well, it doesn't have that immediately imposing...
He's more like
vibe.
a dude. He's just a
Yeah.
dude, which the director has talked about, you know...
That became one of the most famous
The
pieces
shirts.
of merchandise
Yeah, I
in this
know,
whole
huh?
franchise. Cops do it by the book.
You know, they told this Michael, he's being played definitely more like a psychotic killer than the...
I think I heard the director
manifestation
say...
of evil, you know?
The director said he was directing him to be an escaped lunatic.
Right, yeah. Dwight Little is definitely, as much as a lot of this is dreamlike, he's a little more straightforward
Well,
in his...
it's interesting that he's sort of encapsulating both things, two sides, two
Right.
very different kind of sides, you know, to the way you kind of portray Michael.
People are always being portrayed as nothing more than being a person. You know what I mean? But yes, he can go into these dream sequences. But
Because
people
I
are always
love
just
that.
people to him.
I love the way that he shoots Michael in those reflections or in shattered glass.
Yeah.
I mean, it just has such like subtextual meaning, and I just love that. That's the type of stuff that I love. I love seeing that type of stuff, especially in movies like this. It just kind of enriches it and gives it something deeper if you want it. It can also just be surface value, and you can just enjoy the movie for what it is. But if you're looking into it, it's there in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's way more in this movie, that type of deeper stuff, than even in, like, Halloween 2. Halloween 2 is very straightforward. Very straightforward.
Yeah. Yep. And this stuff is this is the beginning of having that mob mentality
That you see in Halloween Kills.
start
yeah.
to
Yep.
creep into this idea of what happens when a whole town knows that Michael is there.
It's like David Gordon Green really brings that out in his trilogy, which I call the Old Man Michael trilogy. He brings it out, this idea, what were you just saying that, because I sort of lost my train of thought there.
The mob mentality.
Yeah, exactly. This idea that this infecting the Zeitgeist, that the evil, Michael's evil is like a contagion that
Yep.
infects people.
The whole town.
And literally spreads like a virus.
Yep. Once he's there, just the fear of him.
Or also the
You know?
chance for these kind of like almost like rednecks to go and be the people who stop. They want to stop him.
Well, right. I mean, Donald Pleasance says it later on. When the cop is like, "You just created a
Right.
mob," and he's like, "You don't have a police force. Like somebody's got to stop them."
And,
you know.
but this is what Michael creates. He's like an agent of chaos. He's an agent of trauma. Michael knows how to infect people and how to bring chaos and use trauma as weapons.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's so. I know I said it earlier, but I mean, I can't elucidate that enough. Like, trauma is Michael's weapon. Trauma is Michael's thing. Evil is what powers Michael, but trauma is how he inflicts that evil on people.
The people who survive him don't move on. Loomis,
No.
Laurie, they all become
The
obsessed
people who
with
are
the idea
killed
that,
actually almost get out easy.
Yeah.
I mean, what Donald Pleasance can convey as an actor is the most haunted, that exact haunted vibe. What just interrupted my thought there is, boy, is Michael Myers terrible to frickin' dogs.
Yeah, he really...
I mean, for Christ's
It's like his
sakes.
calling card to know, is it him? Well, there are dead
If
dogs.
there's one
so-
thing that, like,
yeah.
I can't stand in movies is violence towards animals. That
Yeah.
throws me off. And I want to love Michael Myers. Please, stop killing dogs. Don't eat them. Don't kill them. My God. He's terrible to dogs. And Bucky, this is a huge cosplay character.
I know.
Huge.
Hey, you.
It's interesting to me that Michael...
Look at his shoulders, how up they are. You're right.
I can't stand it.
Jeff? Don't try that Halloween shit with me.
I love...
But here's Michael. He's there for a purpose, is to black out the town.
Right. That's what I was going to say. So it's this version of Michael definitely has more... There's more thinking.
My other thought is, wouldn't this guy recognize what Michael Myers is?
It's Halloween, right?
But even somebody dressing as Michael Myers, if that's what he thinks it is.
But I think it's common, like as you're going to see later on when they see the other people, right?
It's also another example we've talked about in previous episodes of Michael's unbelievable physical strength.
Right.
That again, you could...
Especially since he laid in a bed for 10 years.
You could, exactly. You can his muscles would be completely atrophied,
right.
But you can read into it again in a supernatural way if you want to.
Sure.
But he is truly powered by evil.
I mean, he shoves the shotgun right through people later on, again.
I was going to say that.
Which is great. Again, he doesn't shoot a gun.
Why shoot the gun?
He will.
When you can use it as a blunt instrument.
But you know what I mean? So in this one, he's thinking more like he's like, I have to shut down the power to the whole town, not just the house I want to get into. In the originals, he might have killed phone lines or something, but it was only out of necessity for where he was in the moment. Here, he's thinking ahead and taking out the whole town, and he's finding the power station. Sometimes
he's so methodical.
It's hard for my brain to sometimes get around that.
Another interesting thing about him as a character. Okay, going back and thinking about Halloween 2, there's a perfect example of what I'm trying to say here. When Michael bumps into the guy with the boombox, and he knows that now that Laurie Strode's at the hospital. Well, let's say that was Jason Voorhees. That guy with the boombox would have a machete through his chest.
Right.
The idea that Michael is like a heat-seeking missile. Mm-hmm. Like, he'll walk right past you. You can actually walk by Michael Myers and not have any danger. It's only the people who obstruct his mission that die.
Mostly.
He's so, right. Mostly.
It does
for
change.
the most part,
there's a point,
But for the most part.
Really quick, going back to that Halloween 2 reference, that kid that's with the boombox?
Yeah.
That's Dick Warlock's son.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, there's some cool behind-the-scenes photos of them.
And that scene was actually directed by John Carpenter.
Right, it was added to get that exposition.
Because it really gets the exposition. It was a creative way of bringing exposition.
Now this has also become a hallmark of the 80s horror movies, the girl in the woods calling.
Oh, well, yeah.
Waiting for a stalker.
Well, these kind of tropes are necessary to set up little payoffs or little jump scares or things like that. But you're absolutely right. They're
different, though,
tropes.
than the first,
That is very reminiscent, in my mind, of Halloween 1.
Yep. It is. Don't get me wrong. This movie at times has its moments.
But right there you see Michael for real. He's not reflected. He's actually there. She's reacting to a real person.
Yep.
So there's a different way that he's being... Look, there's another reflection. There's a lot of reflections in all of these movies if you really go back and look through them, but this one is definitely full of it. But I interrupted you.
I forget what I was saying.
Well, there you go.
There we go. That's okay.
There you go. Yeah, you're absolutely right, though. The stumbling around, the running around, calling out, hello.
Well, yeah, in the 5 years or so since they, made one, it's the effect of all the other franchises are starting to rub off on each other.
Oh, absolutely. And the other thing about this sequence, in going back to previous installments, I think this sequence also is used to sort of pad out the runtime a little bit. Stretching out some of this tension that's kind of almost like false tension, because you know that neither one of these characters is going to probably die this early in the movie based on their level of presence in the film.
Well, a movie that's not going to rely on the gore has to try and build suspense.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's going to work, sometimes not.
Right. I like the team up of Sheriff Meeker and Dr. Loomis. Maybe even more so than... Why am I blanking on the sheriff from the earlier movies? What the heck was that? That's so embarrassing.
Now, because you can't remember, I can't.
Yeah,
Begins
it's
with a B, right?
contagious.
Sheriff.
Sheriff Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba.
I can't
No, what
do
the
it.
hell was his name, damn it? This is where people are going to turn the episode off because we can't remember one of literally the biggest legacy characters ever. But anyway, I kind of prefer this sheriff. Sheriff Brackett.
Brackett.
Wow, you nailed that. Wow, did we look pathetic there.
Anyway,
sorry about that.
Oh, come on. It took like 20 seconds.
I know.
But I love,
there's a false Michael right there.
Yeah, two of them.
Yeah, two false
Three of them.
Michaels.
It's like...
Get home, damn it! There's a
Who in God's
That's
name?
what I mean.
Like,
Why would
what?
you do that? Now think about it. They don't.
What?
I don't think they even know Michael's around.
No, they're just out with.
These
That's
are
what their
just-
Halloween.
These
So
are
that
just
goes
like
back
a
to what
couple
you were
of guys
saying,
messing with the cops.
So wait a minute. I think you might be right from what you were saying earlier that there are Michael Myers masks.
I think that's what I'm saying. I think in that store, in this world now, I don't know if that mask is supposed to be something else. You know, the same thing that
I
he
gotta really chew
originally
on that.
grabbed. You know, whatever he grabbed originally was supposed to be something, right? So is it just some more of those? But now in this world, it's after the killings, it's Michael Myers.
It does
right?
seem like that would now be considered a Michael Myers mask in universe.
Right.
Wow. If that's true and that's the case,
Because they're
that
all
is
dressing like
fascinating.
him too. They're wearing the overalls.
See
so
here?
that means they're being Michael Myers, not
Again, we're seeing Michael's rampage
Right.
as aftermath.
Aftermath.
And it's actually such a creative way. You know, you could have shown all this happen.
Right.
But look what it allows you to do with your own imagination as you see what's left behind. Now, some people would say, this is a Halloween movie. That's what I've paid my money to see. I want to see Michael ripping this cop's arm off. But honestly, I think this is very effective, and I think it's very creative.
Yeah, I don't know if there would have been those expectations. Michael at this point was never, you know, he did some hypodermic needles in the eyes
But he's
and all
not.
that. But
He's not like Jason. You're
yeah,
right.
but
You're right.
maybe people wanted him to be more. Now that Jason and Freddy have become popular, you wonder if they expected Michael to keep up. You
Right.
know?
Looking back from the perspective of that time, I think that temptation had to be there. But I kind of appreciate Dwight Little sort of keeping Michael in that classic mode.
Yeah, they've only bumped up the gore a notch, and,
Right.
and you had to. They could have gone way more, but yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. I do like that they keep a little bit to that original idea that you don't need to see tons of blood to be scared by Michael Myers. Michael Myers' scary thing is not in his killing.
You're right. It's not in his visceral violence.
Yeah, it's like those are great to see. Like I do love seeing him kill people. Don't get me wrong.
But that's like exactly what you were saying earlier about what you need. Then is you need more. I hate to say this, but you need more than a stuntman in that outfit. You need an actor,
Right.
someone like James Jude Courtney who understands like how to actually play Michael. Because if that's the case, and Michael isn't about the violence and he's about the presence, then that presence better be on point.
I just find it odd that for when this is also creepy as hell. The idea that Michael is just hiding in the back seat of this guy's car and not killing him.
Well, that's
right
sort
away,
of nightmarish in
right?
general.
That he just took this ride with him to figure out how to get to the house. It's so I love it, right? But
I like that Michael is shown a lot in this movie via images of that hand. His hand.
The burned hand.
Yeah, it's really
the
interesting.
subtle reminder of the H2 and.
I mean, I think on day one of any one of these movies pre-production, going back to what we were saying earlier, the first meeting should be about the mask. The mask is just so frickin' important.
That's why I don't understand. The whole point of them making this movie was like, we got to get Michael Myers back. He's our most important thing. Mustafa has clearly recognized that he needs to, this is his baby. This is the golden egg. This is he needs to keep this thing doing its thing. And they just went so far off the track. Like,
right.
Why? To me, it's very easy. You should, have a body type that matches the original. Do the mask. I don't know if you have to get in the rights issues, but do the mask the right way. I mean, come on.
I like that. By the way, just a side note, a little quibble. You can tell that the actor with the shotgun who comes in first has never really fired a shotgun because you would never put a shotgun up against your face.
These were stunt guys.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
later when they jump out of course,
you would having problems.
And they're just quick to shoot.
Well, this is also sort of a foreshadowing to the end of the movie.
Sure.
Here. Which again, really, we'll talk about it when it happens.
Yeah.
But talk about there has to be some supernatural engine at work here based on the ending of this.
So, again, back to the Michael. I don't understand how they. I know new directors are going to want to put their own spin on everything,
Right.
including their Michael character. But to go, I don't know, so far from off the charts to me. From here on out, all the guys that play Michael just. It's just not. I don't know. It's just not right.
Well, they brought George Wilbur back for the 6th one too.
They did,
Yeah.
which I thought was odd.
Yeah.
Because to me, his shoulders, the whole shoulder thing is weird.
And I know in 5, I'm again blanking on the actor's name, but there was a different actor. It wasn't
It is.
George Wilbur.
No.
And you see
And
him
then they
in 5
start getting
Unmasked.
more and more muscular, too, as the movies go on.
Right.
They become bodybuilders and
Of course, they have to add this in.
They
why
did,
not?
of
You got to
course.
throw this
Well,
in.
think about it. It's less than the original. There's a lot more full-on bare breasts
And
in
of
the
course,
original.
in these movies, you equate sex with death. In all slasher movies, sex
The
equals
promiscuous
death.
teens get it.
And not to mention, she's the sheriff's daughter,
Yeah, of course.
which
right.
is really interesting.
Which guy? What teen or who?
You would have to have a frickin' screw
I mean, I know
loose
she's beautiful,
to
but
be
come
banging
on.
the sheriff's daughter at
no.
the sheriff's house.
Halloween night.
You have to
cops,
be
I don't
totally
know.
insane.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no possible way anyone in their right mind. Well, then again, an incredibly horny 17-year-old.
I guess, I
maybe
don't know.
that would happen. I have
There's
to
that
give you
blue
that.
light again on everything. Blue,
Yeah.
blue.
Well,
Everything's
yeah,
blue.
right.
If he catches us like this, he's gonna skin
Yeah,
us
you think?
alive.
And this actor, Sasha Jensen, as Brady, he famously did Dazed and Confused.
Oh yeah. Oh my
Right.
God.
Yeah.
I would never have thought of that.
Oh, yeah, that's the other thing I know him from that I
Holy
always
crap,
think of when I
that's so
see
interesting.
this. Yeah.
A lot of use of evocative mist and smoke in this movie. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
And sometimes you can actually see the kind of smoke gun, just like right then when the car came through it.
And a lot of movies I would imagine work this way, but this was another classic director and the DP being old college film school friends that just always kept working together. And then when one was given the chance, they always work with each other, and so they know each other really, really well.
If you notice in this room, I always like to look at things that are on the walls, etc. If you notice, a minute ago they showed there was like a mounted deer head or some
Yeah.
sort of animal's head. And to me, that symbolizes being hunted. And that's certainly what's happening on both sides of the coin here. You have these guys hunting Michael, you have Michael hunting Jamie. So whether that's intentional or not, it's like a subconscious
I'm sure
cue.
it's intentional for many reasons. It's also giving you a reason why this guy has a whole bunch of shotguns.
Right, absolutely true.
To hand
That's
out.
a really good point.
Which it's also amazing how he just gives a gun to Brady,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like, I'm not going to tell you what's going on, but have you fired one of these before?
Right.
Like, wow, what a.
I mean, production design and set design is where you can really put in a lot of kind of subconscious cues if you want to as a director. You can kind of put in a lot of background information
Yep.
that isn't meant to be looked at literally. It's meant to kind of just enter your consciousness kind of, in a subversive way
Yep.
and kind of build your psychology towards something. So I always like to look at the paintings on the walls,
Sure.
things like what is being depicted. And in the earlier films, especially in the first one, there's a lot of interesting background stuff. Now, whether it's intentional or not, probably not, but it still has psychological relevance.
10 years ago,
So he doesn't know who Michael Myers is. That's interesting.
he's seen his uncle.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, all these people burst into the house all freaked out, giving this kid a gun, and then he's like, what's going on? He's like, there's no time. So this kid has no idea what's going on until this moment.
Well, another big trope in horror movies, obviously, is the trope of a group of disparate characters boarding themselves up inside of a building or a house, trying to prevent evil from
Night of
getting
the
in.
Living Dead,
You
right?
got it.
Yeah.
And these movies have a lot of like kind of George Romero kind of little moments just like that.
Yep.
And what you get when you do it right, if you do it right, if you put these disparate characters together, the danger of what's going on inside the house usually is more overwhelming than the evil that's outside the house. So all these characters
course.
in desperate situations butting heads with each other is where you get your conflict and your drama.
Yeah.
When the screenplay is done right. Now, this whole movie isn't sort of based on that. It's sort of just an element of this
It has
story.
little homages here
Right,
and there
right.
to some classic.
But it's definitely there's
pieces,
another
yeah.
piece of hunting iconography right there. Actually, see, and it's in its own reflection as well.
All the windows, Dad.
And she's still
I love
walking
that
around
she
in nothing.
Won't take 2 seconds to put pants on.
Put your pants on.
You're around your dad, for Christ's
And
sake.
other cops, like, put a pair of shorts on.
And now padlock the back door. This is
And
the
go
only
get some
way you're gonna
pants
have
on.
this house.
That's the only way he's going to get in or out of the house. It's Michael Myers. If he wants to come in the house, he's going to come in the damn house. He'll come down the frickin' chimney if he has to.
A lot of people like to note later as Michael does start chasing the girls in and out of the house, like how quick he seems to get from like the roof to the ground floor.
That's
to
a
this
trope
and-
in and of itself
Right,
within
of
slasher
course.
movies. That's absolutely a trope that you can't, like Michael, Jason, they all walk.
yeah.
You can run all day long. They will still catch up to you.
Yeah.
Now, Freddy was totally different. Freddy's always doing that funny Robert Englund run. You know, he's always doing that like kind of twitchy, crazy run.
Yep.
Like he's mocking you.
Yep.
But these guys, they just take their frickin' time.
Well, Freddy's always chasing you in a dream too, so
Right.
there doesn't have to be a literal chase.
And again, I like this idea that, again, also I wanted to mention, harkens back to the general original themes of this, is this idea of babysitting, this idea of the
Well, you gotta keep
babysitter
the babysitter,
protecting
yeah.
the child,
Yeah.
the idea of protecting innocence. You know, that's part and parcel with these movies. And in the Ellie Cornell role,
Yep.
she definitely kind of encapsulates that and embodies that in a really, really good way. And I think she does a really good job of playing that sort of, proto Laurie Strode kind of, role very well.
Yeah, she
Don't sit in a rocking
I
chair.
know, I know.
Don't even sit.
The old cop that's like, I'm a little tired, even though I'm supposed to be stopping a bunch of bad guys. So
yeah,
I'm
well,
gonna take a
let
rest.
me just get a little quick shut eye.
And this is like the one big scene where Ellie gets to be mean.
We've
you know?
latched the door and put one nail in the shutter. We should be fine. You
Yeah.
might as well make a tea for Michael Myers because he's going to be in that house in T-minus about 3 minutes.
Isn't
you
it
can't
weird
stop
that
him.
anyone's job would be to make tea at this moment?
Look, if you're not going to put pants on, just go make us some tea. At least do that. At least go stand in the kitchen.
There's a few weird moments like this. A lot of people like to call out, like, why is she leaving the girl alone to check on the cop?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Let's make sure the cop is okay.
But
Is the tea
even,
ready?
Even the director was like, yeah, we just needed to get her downstairs.
Yeah, you gotta get her out of there.
Which,
See the hands? Look
Yeah.
at the hands. See the sculpture of hands? And what were we just saying about Michael and how he's depicted a lot in this is with his hands?
now this is very classic, Halloween, the shot, how Michael's going to be seen
Oh, coming from the shadows?
from the shadows
Right,
over
right,
there,
right.
the kind of peek in and out.
And also, listen to the Alan Howarth score here.
Trying.
It's the theme, the underlying part of the theme, sort of building into the.
There.
Oh, look at that!
Right? That's so good.
Now, what is that down there? Is that a hallway or is that a mirror? What are we looking
It's just-
at there?
Yeah, it's a room
So
with
was
a window.
okay. So
you
he
know?
is. So
He's
he's
in
at
the house.
He's in the house. Okay,
Yeah.
that's all I wanted.
Remember
to
the
know.
cop already? He went back to his car and noticed the back door was open. and,
Okay, yeah.
he got in.
Sometimes when I'm yammering on, I miss things, but you're absolutely right.
See what I mean? Like, think about Michael is taking his time. He's really reading the situation here. He's not like he's in. Why isn't he just killing people?
This is a really
right?
nice lighting and camera setup here.
Not going anywhere, Mr. Butte.
Weird again that like so isolated that the town, how easily the characters in these movies become isolated from the rest of the world.
Well, think about how hard things would be without any power.
Well, right, but I mean,
In terms
even-
of communications,
yeah.
in terms of everything.
But there's always a reason. Like it's sort of you have to separate this small group of people from the rest of the world, or
Yep.
or what doesn't make sense.
And again, by the way, here's fire. You would think Loomis wouldn't want to be anywhere near that fireplace. But again, like I said earlier, fire is really important to Michael Myers. Michael Myers and fire going through all these movies, there's a link. How
Right.
about not opening the door for any reason? How about that?
You're right.
I don't know. It's an interesting that, again, a lot of this sort of, again, feels a little bit like filler to me.
I think this scene was the like I was saying a moment ago. I thought it was happening earlier. This is
Had anything, okay?
I mean,
this is where they give Ellie the chance to not be the nice girl for a little while. You see this other
there
side
are
of
character.
her.
This is a place you can have
She's
a few little
giving this
character
girl
moments.
some shit for
Yeah,
what
no,
she
you're
did with the
right.
boyfriend. And,
You're right.
And she would have to. I mean, think
and
about
again,
it.
yeah, like what we were just talking about having disparate characters inside a location while evil is on the outside. Well, you have to have these character moments and character conflicts in order to build up drama.
And
I appreciate them trying to do that.
Well, this also needs to be there, quite frankly, for the younger female audience that they know that is going to be going to see this. Those are the
Right.
storylines that the girls are going to be paying attention
And can I
to.
just say, you're going to throw the water. Wouldn't you throw it in her face? What you just did is threw it right on her boobs, and now
Yeah.
she's got a wet T-shirt thing going on here. So no pants and a wet T-shirt. What was that? That was the strangest insulting water throw I've ever seen in the history of cinema.
Right.
Logan. You understand?
Again, you do this and leave the girl that
Yeah.
we're all protecting alone.
I'm going to leave a 16-year-old girl in charge of something. Here we go.
Very important.
Yeah.
All
I
our
mean, all our lives are
getting
depending
help
on
at
this.
all comes from this girl. Yeah. Suddenly, their plan is just
Well,
everyone's
it's-
like, you know what? I got to go do something.
Well, this is how chaos affects
Right.
people.
Right.
Chaos causes people to make bad decisions. You know, trauma, terror, it causes people to make bad decisions. It causes people to think irrationally. And again, I appreciate them that they're inserting that into this story. Look at the little
Also,
skull.
of
See the
course,
little
yeah,
skull that's
yeah.
next to her? There's, again, a symbol of death.
And take the girl out of the damn Halloween costume at this point.
Yeah, I
right?
mean, my God, especially since, don't you think that would be triggering to Michael? I mean, wouldn't Michael, he's already after her, wouldn't that be incredibly triggering to see the costume
would.
he was wearing when
They-
he first started?
Only probably Loomis would be aware of that, though, right?
Wouldn't Loomis say, can you put a sheet over this
Yeah.
kid? Well, then again, that would probably do it too. Don't put a sheet over her, because that would also be triggering.
When he first saw Jamie, I'm surprised he doesn't stop in his tracks and be like, well, that's
Yeah,
weird.
right, absolutely. But I'm trying to look at this as though this is the first time I saw it, and this reminds me of Halloween 2 actually right here, and I'll tell you why. Remember the scene with the doctor in Halloween 2
Oh, yeah.
with that needle in the eye?
Yeah. But this is actually
like
Michael.
Right.
Yeah.
But just that type of reveal,
Sure, of course.
like a reveal, and it even goes back to Psycho, this trope of this type of reveal.
And you love how long he will... Oh,
I mean, he's bent all out of shape.
you know, every once in a while the mask looks okay.
Yeah.
And I do think there were different versions, and they were trying to get back to the original feel.
And here
but
he's pinned someone to a wall, one of his classic moves.
just the slightest head nod.
I mean,
but not quite.
that mask, actually, that shot looked pretty good.
Yeah, it's not...
Well, lighting is 50% of
I was
it.
say the close-ups are better. When he's far away, it just looks too blank.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Reminds me of, was it in Star Wars when Han Solo has to talk into the little
yeah.
microphone? Oh, we're doing fine. How are you guys?
Yeah.
Is that Star Wars or Empire?
Look at more steam just blowing in the basement.
Yeah,
Did you
it's,
see that
it's
off
all
to the
through
side?
this movie.
Kinda
That
likes
evocative, yeah.
Which I get, you
Yep.
know. I've made movies and you do like the fog machine.
I just want to note that I think I've used the word evocative 37 times in the last 110 minutes. Do you know basically the running time of this? What's this, about 90 minutes?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think 90 minutes, comedy and horror as genres are very connected and related.
Well, that's not good if you're asking how much longer
No.
in a movie.
The point I'm
just
bringing
kidding.
up
I
is
know.
because 90 minutes is about the the length you don't want to go past that in a comedy or a horror movie.
yeah.
And laughs and scares are sort of metered out in very similar ways. Now,
So this is where
here's-
everything turns. Now we're getting the
Well, the contagion
piano
has now
music.
gotten into
Yeah.
the house. What do you mean? What is going on? What do you think is going on?
Will somebody please tell Brady what the hell's going on?
That I love the way they've positioned him. That
I
is,
know.
to let your imagination
Thank God she
think
lit
of
a
what
candle
happened
right there.
there.
Oh, this is great too.
Look at those hands. That's
Watch,
so strange.
Like it doesn't open.
That
he goes,
sculpture, weird.
Metal, goddamn it, it's metal.
Exactly. What
it
does
means?
that mean?
What, it's just so funny.
What does that mean?
Well, it means you can't break it.
Uh oh.
Jamie.
Oh man, I know we're not there yet, but this movie has one of the greatest endings in all of horror. Certainly one of the greatest endings, if not maybe
Yeah.
the greatest ending in this whole franchise. We'll
Now
get
we
there.
got the Carpenter
And-
music coming in.
in the old jamming gun trope.
the old guns,
Either the car won't start or the gun won't fire.
or their hands are too shaky to get the bullet in.
You got it.
This
And
guy's got a little bit of both.
So perfectly positioned in
He's
front of
only-
a beautiful giant window.
Yeah, this was a real house until they get
Wow.
on the roof.
It almost looks like a set.
This was a house, and when they get on the roof, though, they rebuilt the roof so it's just like a foot off the ground.
Also, all through these movies, Michael in staircases. Michael having these types of battles on staircases.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
through all these movies.
Well, he's always in a house.
Yep. Ooh, yeah, that definitely.
I love he throws it away. I don't need this.
That'll mess up that handsome face.
I don't do guns.
No, that's not going to work. A good punch in the kisser is not going to stop Michael. Yeah. Sayonara. Good night.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just something about this Michael.
I like that way he just did that, like, petulant spitting.
Yeah,
Ooh,
yeah.
that's a very good sound. That sound was perfect.
They talk about how that's a a kill with there's no effects. It's all sound effects.
Yeah, right.
No prosthetics. Guy just standing on an apple box, letting another guy smush his face around.
What do you know about George Wilbur? He was a stunty?
He was a stunt guy, yeah, or stunt coordinator.
Oh, very. That's what I
Which
figured.
are, I think most Michaels are.
Right.
You know?
Well, yeah, because you need someone who can do literal stunts. I mean, a lot of
Started
what
with-
happens with Michael, you got burns, you
Started
got
with
falls.
Warlock.
Yep, you got it. One of my favorites, my second favorite, Michael, Dick Warlock. This is not one of my. You're right. I love Michael no matter what. Oh,
Yeah.
here he is getting his iconic, one
Yeah.
of his most iconic weapons. That's perfect.
Just goes for that knife. Yeah, I love the whole franchise. I love watching all these movies because it's just fun. But that thing that I love about Michael and the things I'm really in love with in terms of the Halloween franchise stem mainly from the first two movies.
Yeah.
and then some later stuff. But
Well,
we'll
and the
get there.
elements from those two movies that bleed into the other movies
Yeah.
are generally what make those other movies the better of the films. But I also think, look, Rob Zombie, David Gordon Green, they both proved, whether you like those movies or not, that this franchise is very elastic. And
Well,
you
right.
can bring new ideas to this franchise. They just have to be executed properly. But
Yeah.
you always do need to have the hallmarks.
Yep.
Whether it's different characters or not, you need certain thematic hallmarks to make these movies a Halloween movie. And I think this movie is successful more often than it isn't.
You need to have a root at all times
Exactly.
for Carpenter.
Yep. You need.
And Hill.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I mean, like we were saying, this idea that the protecting the innocent, the babysitter, the guardian, protecting the innocent from evil, and from the trauma that comes from evil. Well, that's goes right back to the beginning, and I think that's executed very well here.
This is some. Not that, I don't mind the scene, but this is some of the goofiest I think Michael's ever looked. Is seeing this guy's shape walking around on the roof.
Yeah,
With those shoulders, I don't know.
you're right. It is something in the shoulders that doesn't look right. It's too like they're too. Look at the chest too. It's like too puffed out.
I forget which scene or which, but the actress playing Ellie, Rachel Carruthers, she's Ellie is the name of the woman who's playing Rachel. One of those slides coming down the roof, she actually ripped open her chest, her stomach.
Oh wow! God.
It got caught on something on the way down.
Oh, that would be horrible.
She, as a trooper though, she just got it patched up and went back.
You gotta be a pro. The show must go on. I'm telling you, little suspension of disbelief here because the gutters are not that strong.
No.
Kind of an inverse of Michael there from the first movie in a way, right? Going off the roof.
Right. And to think how quick again he's getting down from the roof to here.
Yep. And I think in the commentary I listened to, they talk about that. You just got to kind of go with it sometimes. You just got to kind of go with this concept that he's going to move at a speed that is obviously not logical. But these films aren't meant to be logical, straightforward explorations.
Yeah.
They're meant to be.
If he wanted to get her, if that's his whole point, he should just be running at her right now and stabbing her.
I like the way he looks in kind of out of focus a minute ago. It was really interesting.
Yeah. And this is a good little scare coming up where you think she's about to run into him, but it's Loomis.
Yep, right.
Which kind of happens, I think, in the first movie, too, at times.
I mean, there's a lot of really nice lighting in this movie when you look at it. I think the lighting setups are really nice in a lot of it. But you're right, they do rely on that blue light too much.
It doesn't have a particular, I don't know. Like, Cundy, you just know his look. You
look
know
at her
what he's
acting
doing
here. I mean, it's really good. Like, she actually looks terrified.
Yeah, this is the scene right here when he pops out. Of course, he comes with his arms out to grab her.
Yeah, and they give you the stinger, the old John Carpenter stinger. I like that.
Everybody's dead!
I just want to go home.
What a line.
I'm tired. It's past my bedtime.
But thank God, again, Donald Pleasance, you need him. The movie's changed once he's gone, and you need that cat and mouse thing.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's so great he came back. And of course, you don't have Jamie Lee Curtis, so he's top billing, And
you notice something in his professionalism as an actor that he does a lot of interesting things with his physicality to show that Dr. Loomis has been through hell. Right. He's literally been severely injured.
He's a great actor.
So even in these moments, in his walk, in his kind of doddering way, it's because Dr. Loomis is an older man who was blown up not that long ago.
Yep.
I mean, he would be beat up. A lesser actor wouldn't even think of that. But he brings so much gravitas and reality to this character that in any other actor or a lesser actor would be very cartoonish. But he brings such a oh my God! There's the blonde mask.
Blonde mask.
I mean, it absolutely looks ridiculous.
Like 3 shots
at that point,
there.
why even shoot those shots? I mean, just don't even
bother.
bother.
The director has said over and over again, they just didn't notice it.
Oh, I mean, how can you not notice it?
He said it was probably like 3 in the morning. Everyone was probably tired. No one
Well, it looks like
it.
suddenly Ben Tramer is back.
I know. I don't get it.
The old Ben Tramer mask.
I just don't get it.
I mean, her acting is really incredible here.
So what that also shows is that this was some of the first scenes shot when they were shooting the movie.
Right.
Because they still had the early mask and.
Look at this figure on the door in the dark color, and it's one color.
It looks like
going up the legs.
person,
it almost looks like Michael Myers.
Yeah.
And these shadow figures that you see all through all of the walls, and all these other these that obviously were important to the production design. They put key lights on all of them. So there's something.
Yeah, they're making your eyes dart around.
That's right.
To see if you can find him.
That's right. She's got a great scream for a kid.
Boom.
Well, there would be a little need for a trip to the old pediatrician after that.
Yeah, it's too bad. You listen to Danielle Harris talk now, and she does genuinely seem to have loved working on this movie. Part 5, not so much.
Well, she was sort of burned by this franchise.
And then, she's really doesn't understand why she wasn't able to continue, or thinks it would have been a good direction for them to go in.
Did you say that there were 3 shots that had with the blonde hair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
Or,
that was
I mean, in that quick scene.
Yeah, right.
There was just 3 angles.
One of them is just so prominent.
Right.
It's almost like it's just so not noticeable. Nowadays they could just fix that in post.
Oh yeah. Which is it? H2O.
That has
or
the CG
the
mask.
CG,
yeah, H2O. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have to get out of Haddonfield. The state police are on their way. Let them handle it.
I don't know about you, Earl.
Yeah, I think so too. He's an 80-year-old man. He's like, yeah, that sounds right. Let's do that.
But you know, I think it's interesting. I think you almost expect these guys to be like, no, we're gonna go get him, but they make the decision to actually not. You know, even though that you got that mob thing happening.
You know what's funny?
Although they already did kill an innocent man.
There was a piece of promotional material that you can find online for this movie that was made to look like an invitation to a Halloween party that had Michael Myers like I will attend, and it was used as an early piece of promotional for this,
Yeah, yeah.
except they misspelled Michael Myers' name. But you can, it's like Meyers, but you
Yeah.
can find it online. It's really interesting. It's a cool idea. Just how could that happen? Like, that's just...
So is the idea here that Michael is just hanging on the underside or of the
He's
truck?
doing like a Cape Fear.
Yeah.
Remember how Robert De Niro holds on to the bottom of the car in
I
Cape
guess,
Fear?
yeah.
Which
Which
would
is
be
pretty- Especially in a mask and
pretty
everything,
tricky.
that's pretty
yeah,
hard, right?
Pretty tricky.
You can't really see what's going on.
Pretty tricky for long distances to be hanging on the fuselage of a moving car.
Well, it is Michael Myers.
Yeah, he does what he has to do.
I love this. Oh, there's some cops. Let's get their attention by blowing the shotgun.
Shoot guns off.
Oh my God.
But again, they're all in this state of chaos.
I know.
It's just total chaos.
I know.
And that's Mike, again, like I said earlier, that's one of Michael's greatest weapons, trauma and
I
chaos.
keep looking under the truck to see if they make any allusion to him being
Yeah, I
under
don't
there.
see him
but
there.
No.
That would have been cool, though. Like, you
Right,
could have
just
even
a
had him
little-
roll
just
out
a
from
arm
here.
or something
right,
move.
Right. Yep.
It's just a little something, but
I'm sort of like just going along with it, but is that where you think he is? I missed that.
he
somehow.
has to be.
Yeah.
He's on the truck. Whether
Yeah.
he's just hanging on the back, I don't think he'd be on the back. Though they would have saw it getting in. So he must be underneath.
Look at this, the fogginess. I mean, it is. It
Yeah.
just. Can I use the word for the 38th time? It's very evocative. I should have got a thesaurus. I need a thesaurus. That's what I need, for Christ's sakes. Not only is he holding on, he's holding on
With
one
the knife,
hand.
Right, the knife, exactly.
He's got the knife.
It's crazy. It is nutty.
He's super strong, though. And these guys, I mean, you wouldn't notice somebody crawling into the car.
I know.
I guess
Or
not.
the driver, like, there's no yelling, moaning, or
No.
like none of this gets their attention. One guy's still just standing there.
That was a pretty good
with
stunt
his
right
back.
there.
Yeah, they talk about how these stunt guys really went for it. These aren't fake bodies that
Yeah.
they're throwing. Those are guys
Yeah,
that
that's
did
brutal.
it. Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah.
yeah, something seems odd. I heard a.
And this was one of the scenes they added.
It's like
right here.
It's like Halloween 2 as well, when the nurse is in the car and he's reaching in through the window.
Yeah,
Kind
yeah.
of reminds me of that.
More blood, more blood. This was the scene Mustafa was yelling it in.
Yeah, I mean, you got to punch it up here and there.
Yeah.
They were competing with literally probably 100 other movies that were coming out between 78 and 86. It was like non-stop
I mean, it wasn't his
slashers.
MO, and it was, obviously they were adding 2 scenes to gore up the movie. So you probably figure, well, we're not going to overdo it. So let's, in general, so let's make these 2 extra little scenes bloody.
I mean, this whole thing of, you know, Michael on the car while you're trying to get away. That's again going back to these Halloween hallmarks. This certainly is one of them.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, going back to the beginning of the movie, they say that Laurie Strode died in a car accident. Is that what they said?
Yep.
Yeah.
They're
That's
both
interesting.
parents.
Okay, got it. That's interesting.
About 11 months before these events.
Wow. All right. Oof. Slam on the brake. Yeah, that's what I would do. Slam on the brake and launch him off the front. There you go. There you go.
He finally lost his grip.
Yeah.
But not of the knife.
No, he's held on to that knife. That knife ain't going anywhere.
It's crazy.
And as usual with
I mean,
Michael,
look
at the shoulders.
Look
Holy
at that
Christ.
stance. I
What
don't
what
get
what,
it.
what is that? Like you
I don't get how all these people who were supposedly so careful about, you know, Michael Myers
in his
looked at-
depiction, yeah.
looked at that and went, okay.
Here we are. Excuse me. Here we are pushing in towards the conclusion of this film.
So yeah, I guess we don't have to worry about spoilers, right? But
Well, yeah, it's movie's 40 years old.
exactly.
So, yeah.
You know, the director has said that, you know, obviously Mustafa must have hoped to be able to do more movies, right?
Right. Oh, of course. 100%.
And to date, when this movie was put out, this was the highest grossing Halloween movie.
Yep.
So obviously they would probably want to do sequels. But the director did say when they wrote this ending here.
Did this movie outgross even the original?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well, at the time, you know,
Okay,
I don't
right.
know if now over the
Yep.
years you would say that, but
This
like,
is very important.
right, the touch. That's where
There's some sort
It
of
happens
transference,
right
a
there, yeah.
psychological or even a psychic sort of transference going on there.
So, but when he falls into this sinkhole, right? Like the director said, he is dead. He is dead. That is the intention.
Well, look, he's literally blown to
I mean,
pieces.
obviously, in part 5, they imply he survives and blah, blah, you know that. But
I mean, Sheriff Meeker's shotgun would cut you in half.
you know, they're saying when they wrote this, like at this point, he is dead. That was their intention.
I mean, that's very cool. I love that the drama of him falling down into the grave, and the earth collapsing
yes,
in
of
on top
course,
of him.
Yes, it almost makes no sense that all that extra ground would.
The only way to survive what just happened would be supernatural means. That's the only explanation. That's sort of the problem here.
But he was still left whole. So there's a great interview with Mustafa who said also like Michael, and he said he wrote like there are clauses that you can't do this until recently.
Right.
But he was like you can't
Like destroy his body.
destroy his
Yeah.
body, dismember, crush him, all that. That there always has to be left a possibility that he can somehow, no matter how weird, come back. You know.
Now we're coming towards what I would call the Carrie ending. And the Carrie ending is, you see it in Carrie, you see it in Friday the 13th. There is a crescendo. You get to what seems to be the denouement in the movie, and then suddenly you get one last either horrifying image, jump scare, or something to that effect. Here you go, you can see, even though she's physically survived it, you can see that trauma has now infected her consciousness, and she will never be the same again. None of these characters will.
So here we go. Now we're emulating the
In the-
Carpenter
yep, you got it.
style,
You
and
got it.
man, you know,
With
it
the music
feels like
and everything.
The music, and you're gonna see eye holes, right?
Yep, you got it.
The grabbing of the scissors, the whole thing. Right? Do we see eye holes? I thought we see the
Yeah,
mask
she's
come
wearing the
over.
mask.
But I thought we saw the POV through it. Anyway, and yeah.
So
there it
is
is. Okay,
the inference that
this is very,
simply, was it the touch, or was it just this
It's the
night
touch.
you think so?
No, when you listen to the director and writers talk about it, it's
So the touch just transferred something.
Yep, that
in her.
was the transference
her.
right there. Obviously, there's something in the bloodline, but
I love this. This is one of the best moments of all of Dr. Loomis.
I know he's especially he's ready to shoot the kid. It's crazy.
With the image behind her of like the childhood.
yeah.
Right, you got
Right.
it.
I love
the
that he
evil-
just stops him immediately, but then
I mean, there's so much you could have done with going forward from this.
Yeah.
There's so much that you could have done. It's so full of potential.
yeah,
Look at the blood going down near the eyes, just like
Yeah.
Halloween 2.
yeah, it's.
I mean, that's if not the greatest ending in the whole franchise, it's certainly up there.
it's great.
It's one of the most
it
iconic
is.
endings in all
the
of
twist
horror.
ending. Yeah, it was. Too bad. You know, the writers. He definitely intended.
Yep.
For her to carry on the line.
They didn't give that guy Tom Morga a credit under Michael Myers. That's unfortunate.
No, back then they didn't.
It's
There
really
was something
unfortunate.
weird happened.
Yeah.
He should be in here somewhere under stunts.
Oh yeah,
But,
there you go.
But he it's something that over the years he's become recognized as, but something weird was not.
I'm looking at the stunts now. Oh, there's
Yeah,
his name, Tom Morga.
yeah.
Yep. Well, we're giving him the credit right now.
Yeah, no, I think he was the better looking one.
Yeah, I agree.
But imagine what would the series have been
Okay,
like?
there you got
with,
production assistant Malik Akkad, Mustafa Akkad's
Yep,
son,
his son.
who went on to be
Yeah.
the main producer of the David Gordon
Right.
Green movies.
But imagine what the series would have been if they had the female.
Oh my
Killer.
God! I'm telling you, Halloween 5 to me would have jumped forward 10 years.
Right, wait, and had her older and it really coming out.
You got it.
Her seemingly, cured of whatever
Yep.
happened as a kid. It would chalk it up to trauma and the
Yes.
whole night. And then all of a sudden, though, it comes back
I mean,
out.
rudimentary,
Right.
even just rudimentary thinking would lead you to see the obvious
Which,
continuation.
in a way, is kind of like that idea of the Halloween movies being like a anthology, where it's
Right,
not just
right.
always Michael Myers,
Yep.
and it becomes a different killer. You just have a few movies to explore
Yep.
each person.
And
but,
the idea of it being
you know,
a female this time.
Yeah, I
that's
know,
just so
it's
cool.
crazy.
It's just unfortunate.
Would it have done a
look,
mask?
there's
Would it-
things
yeah.
we'll get to it in the next
Yeah,
episode.
exactly.
There's things about 5 that I do really like in the, the way they.
There's a lot more politics
Right,
going on,
right.
though,
And we'll
between
get there. Mm-hmm.
the producers writing and studios and all that stuff. I think Mustafa, he recognized that he needed to take ownership of this, ship for it to continue, and he did his best.
Right.
And he was a guy who did, smaller movies, I think, in the past, and lucked out with this, and I don't know, you kind of.
I just noticed that John Carl Buechler was one of the makeup designers on this. He did a lot of work in the Friday the 13th franchise. I think he even directed one of the Friday the 13th movies.
Right. But anyway.
Again, just no matter what you say about this movie, there's a lot
stuff.
of great things in this movie.
Yeah,
And
I
the thing
enjoy
about the
it.
Halloween franchise is every single one of the movies, and I'll go on record here as saying every one of the movies in the franchise has something to love.
Right.
And at the end of the day, you open a window to Michael Myers' world, I'm going to jump through it.
Exactly. That's what I mean. I love it all. If it has to do with it, just
Yeah.
to see what other people do with it.
Yeah.
But like I just keep saying, I love the Carpenter Halloween stuff more.
I just want to say again, if you liked this commentary, if you like this type of material, this type of YouTube content, do us a favor and take 2 seconds out of your life. It would mean the world to us if you just hit that subscribe button. Please do that. And if you have something to add, if there's something we missed, if there's something we got wrong, if there's something we got right that you agree with, if there's information we don't know, we would love to hear it. Just leave it in the comment section for us. We will reply and read and read every single comment posted. But please hit that subscribe button. Let us know you're out there. And Joe, any wrap-up thoughts here?
No, it's amazing how quick it goes by when you sit and talk through the whole movie, right?
It flies by. A 90-minute movie feels like a 30-minute movie.
No, it's great. I love doing this. Thank you to everyone who listens.
Yes, thank
Tell
you
your
so much.
friends to listen.
Right.
Help spread the word if you like it at all.
I mean, we can't thank you enough in a very sincere way. If you're listening to this right now, Joe and I sincerely appreciate it. And we sincerely hope that you will continue listening. And share this, subscribe, comment, whatever. Just let us know you're out there. We would love to hear from you. So with that said, we'll be back next time with episode 5, Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. And until then, I'm Christian White.
I'm Joe Francazio.
And have a very happy Halloween.